حي على الفلاح.
نحمد ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اجعلنا دعاة إليك وإلى رسولك. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. ربنا يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير بك نستعين يا فتاح. We praise Allah, we thank Allah. We send peace and blessings on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him and we glorify Him. So in the very beginning of this bayan, I want to mention the points. Sometimes we go and we try, have an introduction, and by that time everybody starts sleeping. And by the time you get to the point that you want to make the point, everybody's sleeping, so we missed it. So I want to mention the objective of today's little bayan, so that inshallah, if we sleep away, we still get it from the beginning. And we can hold on through the bayan, inshallah, so that we can see the flow of it and the connection of it. It's based on a book written by Imam Ghazali. All those who know of Imam Ghazali? So, he is one of the reformers of the ummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like when the fire is lighting, you always need to blow it a little bit to give it back a little life. So alhamdulillah, he was one of these persons. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi. Maulana Nadwi has written a book, Saviors of the Islamic Spirit. What's the name of the book? Saviors of Islamic Spirit. And in this book he has identified the mujaddid of each century for the last 11 or 1200 years. So he has identified who is the mujaddid of the first century, second century, third century. So it is very interesting reading. And he has highlighted Imam Ghazali as one of the reformers of his particular century. He has written many books, the most famous of which is, who can tell me? The most famous of Imam Ghazali's book, Ihya'ul Ulumuddin. What is it? Ihya'ul Ulumuddin, the revival of Islamic knowledge. The knowledge there, but it did not have the ruh. So he wrote that book to revive the Islamic learning and so on. He also wrote another book, and the name of that book is Kimmiyatus Sa'ada. What is it? Kimmiyatus Sa'ada. From that word Kimmiya you get chemistry. There are certain Arabic words that from it you have English words that derive. Kimmiya is one of them. Chemistry, Kimmi, dealing with chemicals, how you put them together, components, compounds, etc. So he wrote this book Kimmiyatus Sa'ada, which is the Alchemy of Success. Translated, it means the alchemy. Alchemy means the formula. What are the chemicals, what are the things you put together to get success? Like a dish has a what? Recipe. Things that, main ingredients that you put together in a particular way. You put it together like this, alhamdulillah, you get something tasting nice. So what is the recipe for this? What is the recipe for that? So in this book he has written, he has highlighted Kimmiyatus Sa'ada, the recipe or the alchemy for Sa'adat. Sa'adat means success. Another word for Sa'adat is what the Muazzin calls us to, Hayya al-Falah, Hayya al-Falah. Falah, what is Falah? Fallahun is a farmer. He plants the seed in the ground and it grows and it produces Falah, success. So it is a certain type of success in which there is no loss. Sometimes you buy something for $10 and you sell it for $12. You say you are successful, but you had to spend money, you had to go, and certain things were expended, certain things were lost on the way. Success, Falah, when Islam talks about Falah, it is such a success in which there is no loss. There is nothing you have to give up. So what is the recipe for that? What are the ingredients that have to go together to make that? In a nutshell, you will call it Islam, but it has a sequence. Just like the ingredients that you put together, the rice and the flour, and you bake in a cake and the yeast and the sugar, They are ingredients, but they are put together in a certain way, in a certain quantity, following a particular method. So he has highlighted 4 things. He said there are 4 things that are the main ingredients for success, and this is the points. All right? 4 things that are the main ingredients for success, and each of these 4 things has 10 elements, 10 dimensions, and can be broken down further into 10. So how much we have there so far? 4 by 4, 4 by 10? 40. Ihya ul-Ulumuddin is arranged on the same sequence, where it deals with 4 things. First thing he deals with, and then he breaks it down into 10 points. And then he deals with the second thing, and he breaks it down into 10 points. Like this: what it is, how to acquire it, and the nature of it, and so on. What are these 4 points? This is a lot to digest, because Ihya ul-Ulumuddin is in 4 volumes. This book, Kimmiyat Sa'adat, is about this thick, so it's a lot to digest. So we're just introducing it here today. We can talk a little more about it this evening, and inshallah as time goes by. So I want to stop with my presentation there and then now mention something else. So I've mentioned to you there are 4 things, 4 main ingredients that goes together to make and formulate the alchemy of success. These are the 4 main ingredients, and each of them have 10 explanations. I want to stop there. I want to mention something and then I'll come back inshallah. It is the job of the scholars to look at the condition of the ummah and to take from the medicine cabinet of the deen and put together the particular concoction that the ummah needs at this point in time and give it to them. It is the job of the ulama and the scholars and those who are learned and those who are the khudama ud-deen, the servants of deen, the imams and the people who are devoting their lives to the religion. It is their job to take from the medicine chest of Islam, Hadith, Quran, practices of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and put together a particular concoction that is what the ummah needs for the disease that they presently have. Everybody follow that example? How many of you all know of the book Hisnul Hasin? I think I saw it here once. Hisnul Hasin. Anybody? Hisnul Hasin? It's a book of du'as. It has been abridged because it appears to be too much for people to recite. And it has been abridged. You know it, but you don't know you know it. It's a book that's very famous. Anytime you want to know what is the dua to recite when traveling, or what is it, that is the book you check. Hisnul Hasin. So it was written by a particular scholar because the Muslims, they were going through a particular predicament where there were a tyrant king and he was just wiping out Muslims and killing out the ummah and so on. So the response was, what do we need as an ummah? So he put together, we need du'as. And he called the book Hisnul Hasin. Hisan means a fortress, Hasin means of the good people. A fortress for the believers. Familiar now? Huh? Right. So Hisnul Hasin, the fortress of the, what word they use? Believers? Huh? Fortress of the Muslims. Hasin means those who are nice. Hasan. Who are nice? That's we. We are the nice people. Right? So a fortress for the nice people. Meaning, and he said in his introduction, the objective of this book is like you are running from an enemy. And in the distance you are seeing the fortress of a mighty king who can vanquish, who can deal with this guy. So you run and you are going towards it and you go into it and you enter its gates to take refuge from this person, this enemy who is running you down and chasing you. This is what we need now. And in each century, in each time, we are going to be faced with an enemy. We are going to be faced with a situation and we will need a Hisnul Hasin, a fortress, to go and to get protection from. But what form did it take? Du'as. A king, a person, he's running you down, trying to kill you, he's killing the woman, killing the children, usurping lands, all sorts of mischief he's doing. And what is the fortress? Allahumma Rabbana Rabbana. That's the fortress. So he put together what you need to recite on all occasions. Understand? So like this, when Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was cast out of Jannah, and he landed where? Where was he? Sri Lanka, isn't it? Eh? You all know that? Sri Lanka. So there's a mountain called the Mountain of Adam. His grave is there too. It's about 75 feet long. And between Sri Lanka and India, there are little groups of islands. It's called the Bridge of Adam. That's how we crossed. I went to the mainland to India. And from there, then he went to Makkah, Hajj. So that's why it is said the first Hajj journey was undertaken from India to Makkah. Because Adam alayhi salatu wasalam left India to go to Makkah. That's where he met Eve. In where? Arafah. That's why it's called Arafah. Because that's where they recognize one another. It's a different story. So when he came down, he was what? Regretful, and he was weeping, and he was crying, and oh Allah, forgive me, forgive me. What happened? فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ كَلِمَاتٍ. Allah inspired words in the heart of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, and when he recited those words, then he was forgiven. What are those words? We say it in Salat. What are those words? Rabbana zalamna anfusana. Oh Allah, we have wronged ourselves. Wa illam taghfir lana, if you do not forgive us. Wa tarhamna, and have mercy on us. Lanakunanna minal khasirin, we are going to be the losers. When he said that, now Allah forgave him. What is the solution? Word. What else could we do? You're jumping up, running here, doing this, building this, doing that. Words. You realize after all the things we try to do, you realize there's really nothing we can do, you know. The objective is turn to Allah. Turn to Allah. All of this, the summary of it is to do what? Turn to Allah. How to turn to Allah? What to turn to Allah with? With words, with zikr, with darood. What was the response to this coronavirus by our ulama? Our ulama, the response to the coronavirus was 40 istighfar. 40 istighfar. Recite. 40 istighfar. Just keep on reciting. 40 istighfars. Istighfars that were taken from hadith. Just like we had previously, the 40 darood. 40 darood put together. That was for a reason. To fight a particular disease. Now it's about istighfar. Turn to Allah. Turn to Allah. وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. That is the objective. Now I go back to what I mentioned first. Imam Ghazali said there are four things. Four things that are the main ingredients for what? A good duck? For success. Where? Where? Success where? In this life? More so in the hereafter. What are the main ingredients? 4 of them, and each of them have 10. All of that put together. And what I mentioned about these scholars, the objective is وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. Where the Hafiz? Where the Hafiz in there? Where is that ayah taken from? The students.
Where is there?
Yeah, that is in Surah what? Muzammil? 8 ayat, Surah Muzammil. Muzammil is 73, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Right. 73. So, وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ, and remember the name of your Lord. وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا, and devote yourself with a complete devotion. That is the objective. Be in the zikr of Allah, constant remembrance of Allah. Doesn't mean subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. No. Constant remembrance means constant obedience of Allah. Constantly fulfilling His commands, constantly staying away from His prohibitions. That is remembering His name. He's watching me. He's seeing me. He said to do this, He said not to do that. I'm not going close to it. What He said not to do. What He said to do, that's the road that I am on. Remember the name of your Lord. How? وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا, and devote yourself with a complete devotion. The way this Arabic sentence is constructed, it has something called an absolute object. Verbs have an object, isn't it? Zaid hit Bakar. Bakar, there is the object. The object in this sentence is called an absolute object, where the infinitive form of the verb is repeated to show emphasis. And tabattal tabtila, you'll hear the word twice. Allah is saying, and devote yourself, how? A complete devotion, total submission. This is the objective of putting all these ingredients together. This is the objective of understanding these 4 points. All of this is to bake success, to cook success, to get success. Because the fact of the matter is that after the blink of this eye, what am I talking about? The life that we live here, after we do so, open it and close it, it's time to stand in front of Allah. Your iqamat has already been called. Your azan and iqamat are already called. Time you're born, azan, your janaza, azan and your janaza iqamat has already been called. One wink, and it's time to put you into the grave. So after that, you'll be standing in front of Allah. Standing in front of Allah. Having to face eternal punishment or eternal bliss. How to be successful at that point? Imam Ghazali says 4 things. First is ma'rifatun nafs. Know yourself. Man lam ya'rif nafsahu lam ya'rif rabbahu. That one who cannot recognize himself, who he is, what am I, who am I, that one who cannot recognize himself will not be able to recognize Allah. Know yourself. Know what you are, who you are. Am I a plant or an animal? What am I? Am I a slave or a king? Who and what am I? Know yourself. Second is, know Allah. Know who Allah is. Get the ma'rifat of Allah. It is called ma'rifat. What is it called? Ma'rifat. To recognize Allah. To recognize who He is. If you recognize someone, then you'll be able to fulfill the requirements of that meeting. You go somewhere, you're supposed to meet an important person to give you a job, whatever, and you're sitting right next to the person you didn't know. Then somebody comes and says, that is the boss. You say, oh, difference now, isn't it? It's different. Oh, how are you, sir? Whatever. It's different because you get the recognition. You recognize who he is now. First is, recognize yourself. Second is, recognize who? Allah, the ma'rifat of Allah. This is what our striving should be, to get to know who is Allah, so that when one ray out of the light of the majesty of Allah were to shine on us, it will annihilate all that we think we are and everything else. Just one ray of the ma'rifat of Allah. Get to know who is Allah. Next is get to know the nature of this world and get to know the nature, 4th thing, of the akhirat. When all of these things have augmented itself in our minds and find their right place and position, then these are like the numbers and the bearings in our compass. If your bearing, you're going 20 degrees, that's a particular, but if you are supposed to go 90 degrees this way and those numbers are not correct, your eternal direction is not going to be correct, and where you're going to end up is not going to be correct. 4 things. Know yourself. Recognize and know who is Allah. Recognize and know the nature of this world that we are living in. And recognize and know the nature of the akhirat. Each of these things have their explanations. But the sum total of it is وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. Remember the name of your Lord and devote to Him yourself with a complete devotion. This is the nature of Islam. In our times now, what does it mean? What can we do? And I'll end by giving you a small example, because only so much we can really talk about in the bayan today. If I had to ask you, what you think is or will be the biggest fitna that we will face? What would you say? So if that's the biggest, that's the biggest. We can't excuse that if that's the biggest. Huh? Anybody else? What do you think is the biggest fitna? Prophet ﷺ told us. Dajjal. Dajjal.
When I say Dajjal, I mean the whole system in place.
I mean Dajjal, the man himself with the one eye. The Dajjal himself. Prophet ﷺ feared for us that, right? So that is like the pinnacle of fitnas and tests, trials and tribulations. What's the cure for that? To do what with Surah Kahf?
Read it every Friday.
Recite it. You have to build some fortresses. You got a silver bullet or something? Prepare to put together some silver bullet. What do we have to do to fight that fitna? Recite, recite. Don't make it too complicated, brothers. Sisters too, it's not complicated. We don't have to find no big set of mathematical thing and no formula. And simple. Recite Surah Kahf. That's it. Allah does not want us to go beyond and above the capacity of the lowest Muslim. Simple. Keep it simple. Or don't look for no big solutions. The small, simple solution is big, but it's not big. Simple. You want to be protected from the Dajjal? Our job is not to kill the Dajjal. Huh? Whose job is that? That's Isa alayhi salam's job. That's there for him already. Right? The Mahdi, he will do what he has to do. That's not our concern. When that time comes, that time will come. 1400 years have passed. How much yet to go? We don't. Whatever Prophet ﷺ has said, that basically that if you hear of the Qiyamah coming tomorrow, or some great disaster coming or whatever, and what to do? If you are planting a tree, continue planting the tree. Keep it simple. So I'm saying simple, not to simplify it, but just to show us how easy it is. The solution is easy. You go by a doctor, you have some big pain, diet. It all boils down to that. Which disease you go to the doctor and he doesn't tell you diet and exercise. Keep it simple. So that is where the solution for that biggest problem is, the reciting of Surah Al-Kahf. It will do what it has to do. Allah put something in it. And for you to recite it, it will press the buttons that it has to press. It will put the barriers. What it has to do, it will do. The right people, those who have to be protected, will find the time to do it. That is the big thing. That is the challenge. Reciting is not the time, you know. Reciting is not the major thing there. The time. To put aside the effort. To put aside that time. And the Prophet ﷺ said, do this, I'm doing that. That is it. That's my job. To hear and obey. To hear and obey. So like this. We have to cut out for ourselves from the alchemy of deen, from that medicine chest of Islam. We have to cut out that formula that suits the disease. And in this day and age, it is about istighfar. Allah not upset with the non-Muslim. Allah not vexed and angry with the non-Muslim. They are doing the worst, which is kufr. Allah not vexed with them. Allah show His anger and His punishment on the day of Qiyamah for them. Whatever punishment is coming is because of who? Me. Not the Muslims. Me. I. Find that thing. Oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, forgive me. Istighfar. After every salat, istighfar. Our entry into Jannat is just based on reciting Ayatul Kursi after every salat. Prophet ﷺ said that. There is nothing between a person and entrance into paradise besides death for that one who recites Ayatul Kursi after every salat. Jannat is hard to earn. It is. If we put those hurdles in front of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the hidayat and tawfiq to apply the solutions that are right in front of us. We're dropping them and we're going and looking out. They're right in front of us. Our salat, our dhikr, our Quran, fasting during the week, giving of charity, those simple little things that are really not simple, that are trenches between us and the Jahannam, and that will give us ticket to enter into the paradise. وأقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.